Alright, we are working our way from the front to the back. We've got some hydraulic hoses and whatever to hook up. But we're kind of working on the tail end of the frame here now. We're going to cut the tail hinge in. And then once the tail hinge is in, then what we can do is hook our hoses up that go to the tailgate on the silage box and the winch. And then we'll hook up our hoses that are supposed to go to the hoist. So I've got the frame marked out where I'm going to cut it. We're going to cut right here across the top web, down this side here, and we're going to go over and then down again, and then this much of the frame is going to be garbage. So I've got that marked out. Now we're just going to fire up this torch and we're going to cut that right off in there. This is going to cut relatively easy because there's no rust in between the frame rails. The last truck I did, a lot of you asked, why don't I just use the plasma cutter? In order for the plasma cutter to work, you have to cut all the way through something. It has to cut all the way through in order for it to work continuously. And the trouble with two pieces of steel that you have together, as soon as that cuts through the first piece of steel, it makes a little bit of a burst before it goes through the other side, and it has a lot of trouble getting through two pieces of steel if there's any little bit of an air gap. That's really why I'm not using the plasma cutter. If it was a single piece frame, I would use the plasma cutter. But we're gonna go ahead and use the propane oxygen torch. They've got the acetylene torch in the other building. Alright, we've got everything all cleaned up with the grinder, and now we're going to set the tail hinge in, weld that all down. Then I haven't yet decided if I'm going to put the ICC bumper on now or if I'm going to wait to do it till later. So I've got these chunks here. They're gonna go in the scrap bin. I've got a cross member left over. We'll save that for when we need it put into another truck or something. Those cross members can be rather expensive, so we're gonna set this in there. I've already had it in there. I ran the square on it a couple of times, and we're good to go. So we can start tack welding it in and make a couple of passes on the inner frame rail and on the back side and underneath this angle iron tail hinge, and then wrap some nice weld around the outside here. So one thing I have to do is I have to run a grinder over this tail hinge to get some of this paint off in there so that we don't have any contamination of that paint getting into the weld. But we'll clean that off and we'll pull that decal off of there so that when we go to paint this, we're not painting over the top of that decal. They should actually give you a decal. They should actually not put that decal on there and give it to you so that you can put it on after you get everything welded and painted up. So let's go ahead and get this welded in. Well, we've got the truck ready to set the rails on there. I just got to build the rails yet. But we've got the hydraulic valve body done. This valve here is going to run the hoist. This one here is going to run the tailgate, and then this third one back is going to run the winch. Now, I ended up buying this valve body online. I bought it in pieces, and I bought a handle kit for it. However, it doesn't match the other two handles. I actually like this handle better than these two handles here, and this handle here is meant for what's called a high boy. This is a commercial number 35 hydraulic valve body, and they do make what's called a high boy. It's a taller valve, and what it has is a port relief on the valve to make it higher, and then that port relief ends up coming through. You can access it through the handle. This valve here, I'm just running a system relief on the inlet cover, and this one is supposed to be set at like 3,000 psi. The hoist can accept or handle 3,100, and we've got to get that level up that far so that we could get the maximum dope capacity out of this hoist. So I ended up putting a gauge on this one as well as like what we did with the other truck. I don't normally put the gauges on there, but it's a good idea. Usually I run a gauge with just a couple of adapters and go right onto the valve, but then you end up getting oil all over everything. So it's just better to have the gauge right on there, and it's there. Now what we're using here is the middle valve is the tailgate valve, and being that we're pumping so much oil through this valve body and then through the hoses to go back to the tailgate, we have to slow the hydraulic flow down so that the tailgate just doesn't go so damn fast that it blows itself right off the truck. So I've got some valves here that I can slow that flow down on both ports. You can get away with just running one flow control unit, but I have done it both ways, running one on each side or just one, and then yeah, so it works both ways. This valve for the hoist is a double acting valve. However, this hoist is a single acting hoist, and what I had to do is run the downside back over into return so that in the event that the pump is left on, if you go to put the hoist down, what you have to do is you have to overcome the relief, and then it'll blow itself by the relief to return the oil from the pressure side of the valve unit here. So I have seen instances where on one of our other trucks that wasn't built right, it was built with a double acting valve for a single acting hoist, and we blew a hydraulic pump right off of it. It was one of them, well, actually truck 9 and truck 18 had the same boxes on them that I didn't build, and that's why we've got this hose on there like that. And I've got the hoses for the tailgate and the winch strapped across on the frame. I only had to put one bracket on the other truck because I was able to use the bracket of the air dryer on the other truck to kind of hold these hoses into place. We've come up over the top of the cross member and then down through the top of the frame. I ended up putting a piece of flat bar on here, and we're zip tied to it with some fire hose on there to kind of protect the hose. And this here is a lay flat hose, lay flat manure hose, just a section. And as you can see, we have the mud kit installed as well. We've got mud tires on the other one too. These tires are excellent. They're an Alliance 331. We've tried the BKT tires. They're radials. They just don't hold up. They don't have the traction, and these will go anywhere. We've got the tail hinge on there. We've got the hydraulic fittings here to plug the tailgate into. Once we slide this box onto this truck, we can just plug the tailgate hoses into these two fittings right here, and that'll work off of that. And then I've got a pair of hoses for the winch just tied together, hooked together. I'm not gonna put a winch on the rail system that I built for this truck right away. I don't have the winch here. I didn't want to have the added expense because we're not going to be sliding these on and off all that much. We probably won't slide them on and off at all. I ended up having to get a new set of taillights. I couldn't use the taillights that were on this truck. Each truck had a taillight on them that was bad, so I ended up having to get a couple of new ones. Now this bumper here is built a little different than the one on the other truck. The other truck, we're gonna put a pintle hook hitch plate on the other one. However, we're not gonna put one on this truck. So this bumper is gonna be staying on this one. On the other truck, I ended up putting a couple of tow hooks on the frame, the ones that were actually on there, but we're not going to put them on this one. I ended up putting a couple of D-rings that are welded right just about to the end of the truck frame. We ended up cutting this frame back farther than we needed to when we cut this tail hinge in there, and then I butt welded a piece of 1x5 flat bar right to the end of the frame. And then it comes up underneath that hoist, comes down, and it welds to that 2x4, and then we stuck a 2x3 on that backside vertically to fill that gap in there. So that bumper is gonna stay put on this truck. We're not gonna take it off this one. So we're just about all ready to go here. We've got to build the rail system for it yet. That's going to take me a couple of days to get the rail system built, get the box on there, get the tabs all made. And we're really pushing things here to get this truck ready for corn silage. Corn silage is going to be ready earlier this year than we anticipated. So it is just about almost 7:30 actually, and I've got to take a couple of doors out of the silo. We opened that up here a couple weeks ago, and I took doors out of it last Saturday. It's Friday night now, and usually we're going up in there once a week. We're feeding it a little faster than we did last year, and I think we're going to be at a 5-6 day interval of having to go up and lower the unloader. We call it taking doors out. We have to lower the unloader, move the blow spout down, and move one door up and whatever. Usually we take out 2 doors at a time. So that's gonna do it for this video, folks. Like I said, we're really hoping to get this together. That was the goal, to have it for corn silage. So everything so far has went together real well. We just got to get the rails built. So that's going to do it, folks. I want to thank you for watching, and we will catch you at the next video.